Go ahead. Speak.
Speak.
Oh, you know this one, so you can sing along if you like. Starts to hurt before it goes from bad to feeling worse. I turn off my phone, I get down low, I put my hands in the dirt. I try to stop the world from moving so fast, try to get a grip from where I'm at, simplify this dizzy life and put my feet in the grass. I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to work, I'm going back to the earth. Oh. Explanation for a high rise must be that everybody wants to get high and move on up to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Well, the higher we go, the taller we grow. We lose sight of the land below. You can have your place up in outer space, 'cause my home is where my food is grown. I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to work, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to work, I'm going back to the earth. I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to work, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to work, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to work, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to the earth, I'm going back to work, I'm going back. Let's hear this band, come on.
I love Jubilee. All right, we can always just be chill because there's always another way. It always works, there's always a path. So I invite you to take a deep breath and to just be in this space and to invite the fragments of your spirit from all the important things, all the grocery lists, all the things to do, the world, but to bring it just and be here now in this sacred space together with one another, this heart space. So I have an opening reading for you this morning by Julia Fehrenbacher, and it is called What Silence Said. This is what silence said to me today. Trust what you can't see. Move forward despite the wobbly groundlessness of I don't know. Breathe. Love. Create. Show up as you are, every day, no matter what. Go where wild irises grow. Say thank you for all of it. Weeds, cracks, sunbeams, that hand on your shoulder, the forever throb of ache. It is all a doorway, a hand leading you back to grace. Welcome to Sacred Space.
All right, everybody, it is time for us to stand and sing together. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to love, a time to weep. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to reign, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under
Oh, good morning, Jubilee. Good morning, and thank you, Ryan, World Beat Band, and Susie and Paula. Thank you so much for bringing that vibration into our morning and our awareness. And if everyone would, just for a moment, take a breath into this moment. And if you would, just turn with me to, in this moment, let's honor all these directions. And then let's come back to center. Let's come back to earth. Let's come back to source. Let's acknowledge the environment in which we live. Let's acknowledge the life, the warmth, the generosity in which Mother Earth so willingly gives to us. In this time, whenever we're so focused on dividing the directions, how about when we start to turn, steer the energy and bring it into focus, just like these storms that have been coming and landed in a certain place to bring us a lesson in life. So if you will, let's stand and breathe into this moment. And know, ancestors of earth, of the skies, know that we stand here with you with an open heart and an open mind. We stand here as one indigenous tribe of this earth. We stand here in vulnerability and openness. We acknowledge the unknown and the great mystery of life. We explore the depths of the oceans and the greatness of the sky. We thank you, Mother Earth, for giving us a place to stand and to live, to witness and to shine. Thank you, Mother Earth, for all that you do, your graciousness and your compassion and your love and your gentleness. Know that we're listening, that we love you. In a good way. Oh.
Porscha and Lynn, come on up and light our Advent candle.
All right. Last Sunday, we lit the first Advent calendar. The calendar. You know what I've been doing at home. Let me take that from the top. Last Sunday, we lit the first Advent candle, the candle of hope. We light it again, remembering hope, which will always be brought to birth in, through, and among all creation. The second Advent candle is the candle of trust. It is the stillness of our sacred space. We light it, watching it burn and glow. People of God, willing to walk and live in partnership with all who seek to be people of peace.
All right, as we sing, we're going to fill the hunger baskets. A little ditty you all know. Slow down, you move too fast. You got to make the morning last. Just kicking down the cobblestones, looking for fun and feeling groovy. Here we go. Hello, lamppost, what you knowin'? I come to watch your flowers growing. Ain't you got no rhymes for me? Do-do-do-do, feeling groovy. Got no feast, promises to keep. I'm dappled and drowsy and ready to sleep. Let the morning time drop all its petals on me. Life, I love you, feeling groovy. Slow down, you move too fast. You gotta make the morning last. Just kicking down the cobblestones, looking for fun and feeling groovy.
morning, everyone. Whoa, that's a little loud. I'd like to invite everybody up here now that wants to make an announcement. No, it's not working. Testing, testing, now it is. Okay, who's first? Come on.
Okay. In spite of all the bad things that happened, one really good thing that happened is that Chris Andrews, the Jubilee minister in Louisiana, has mailed our Jubilee $2,000 for hurricane relief. So the outreach team are going to be processing this money, and we would like you to email me. It's also in the newsletter, my email. If you have suffered serious loss and would like to participate in the distribution of this $2,000. So we are really blessed for this, and we're happy to share it among all of you here at Jubilee. Thank you.
And that's also the Carol Greenspan, whose house will be hosting the book group. So I didn't put her address or contact number in the newsletter, just because that's kind of too public. Anyway, she's here. If you got questions tomorrow. Tomorrow? No, a week from tomorrow. Thank you. 2 o'clock Mondays, Serviceberry. It's a wonderful book. Please join us.
Good morning, Jubilee. Christmas is coming, so December 22nd, let's have a cookie exchange at Jubilee during coffee hour. It's going to be separate from coffee hour, but there will be a table set up. Please pull out your favorite recipes, 2 to 3 dozen cookies or more. The deal is you'll set up your cookies and you'll go home with the amount that you brought. So if you brought 3 dozen cookies, you get to go home with 3 dozen for the Christmas holiday season. So again, that's the 22nd during coffee hour, separate table set up.
Good morning. Jubilee needs you. We have 4 board members rotating off the Jubilee board in the second half of 2025. And if you would like to further serve our community by collaborating with board members in the community, please talk to me, or you can email me, and that information is in the newsletter as well. So thank you for considering that.
In the wake of State Bill SB 382, the moral majority is back. Monday rally, meeting at the Old State House in downtown Raleigh at 5:30 p.m. There'll be a bus from East Asheville. Talk to me after the service.
Okay, everybody likes to sing Christmas carols, right? Yeah, we're going to do it as a community downtown Asheville on Saturday, December 21st. We're going to meet at the Grove Arcade on the north end at 2 o'clock. So please join us. We'll have music for you, and it's just a great time cruising around downtown Asheville together, singing carols and bringing Christmas cheer. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Mary Lou from the Outreach Committee, and our focus for this quarter was housing needs. And as we all know, there's been a lot in our community due to Helene. And so I am very proud to be presenting a check to Lukas Ray, and he is from Mountain Housing Opportunities. Now, the check is a love gift from all of you for the total of $1,500. Thank you so much. And I'm going to let him have a few words.
Thank you all. We're so grateful for this gift. These funds will go directly into our Hurricane Housing Relief Fund, which will support MHO. We own a bunch of affordable housing units. 3 of them were impacted in the River Arch District. And so these funds will go directly to support those renters so that they won't have to pay rent for the next hopefully half year while we repair the building that they were living in. So we all know that affordable housing was a crisis already before Helene. It's a much bigger one after Helene. And so these funds help support everyone having a safe, secure, and affordable house in Asheville. So thank you.
Hey, sure. I think so. Top one? Bottom one. Ah, let's see if I know how to do this. Hey, y'all. So I thought that I would ground this gift. This is not poetry, but there'll be some poetry in it later. Ground this gift in some of the words from the Apostle James in his letter to the 12 churches. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. James 1:22. So in thinking about what I was going to say today and talking with Susie about it, my mind latched onto this scene from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Have y'all seen this movie? It's not a really great movie, but it's a great cast. And so in this movie, Robin he goes off to the Crusades, right? And he's kind of the spoiled brat, the 1%, he's the landed elite. He's this rich guy, thinks he's going to win glory in the Crusades, comes back home, and the Sheriff Nottingham, who's played by Alan Rickman, is just wreaked havoc on his estate, right? So he meets Rickman, draws first blood, escapes, and then Rickman says, "Loxley, I'm going to cut your head out with a spoon," right? Okay? So I think the experience of Hurricane Helene in the midst of this decade of strife, war, pandemic, civil unrest, economic and political inequalities, climate change, it feels like our hearts are being eaten out with a spoon, doesn't it? It feels like the very spiritual and social ground on which we stand has been washed away. And for my part, I'm very fortunate. I've got this chameleon, white Southern gentleman thing going on, right? So I'm going to be all right. But I have lots of friends. I have black friends. I have brown friends. I have friends who have uteruses and tough choices. I have transgendered friends. And they've lost a lot, and they're worried about losing more. I can't say those fears aren't unwarranted. And after the aftermath of Helene, I followed the waters like Yona down to Meccan Abbey. It's a touchstone for a lot of us at Jubilee. It's a Trappist monastery just north of Charleston. My plan, I don't know how I got there. God led me there. My plan was to go to Charleston, work for a little while, and come back when my restaurant opened up. So I found myself at this monastery, and I'm not Catholic. I've never been there and didn't know what it was. And it was a place where God showed me a new path to the waterfall, a new way up the 7-story mountain. Mepkin is a Santee word. It means beautiful place. And it was founded 45 years ago by brothers from the Trappist monastery in Kentucky, Our Lady of Gethsemane. It's founded on former slave land, plantation land, that had been donated to the church. And for 75 years, 7 times a day, 365 days of the year, these monks have been bathing this space in prayer, offering up their prayers, our prayers, to the divine, and healing this land and healing their community. And it's become a very thin place. It's a place where the dimensions between reality are blurred, and you can really commune with God. I encourage everybody to go there. My plan was to go there for like a few days, and that wasn't an option. So I wound up being there for a month. And like these conversations with God that we're having, they were having there, they lead to more questions than they do answers. Questions like, who do you think you are? This reflection that competes with who God wanted you to be. Who are you really? The question of whom do you serve? To what do you offer the most humble and sincere gift, the gift of your submission? We've had some experience with these questions in recent years, haven't we, Jubilee? One of the things our founder, Howard Hanger, borrowed from the Apostle James sticks in my mind. Belief is the red herring. Chase eschatological questions all you like, kiddo, but it's what you do that matters. This is how we live out our faith. How will you, with whatever faith you have, answer the call to life? In my last conversation with the abbot at Mecca Abbey, Father Joe, he asked me this. He said, in the end, JD, we're all called to be mystics. Your task now is to discern how you'll answer this calling. And now, Jubilee, I ask you, how will you express your incarnate mystic? How will you contribute to this mystical conversation we're engaged in? Are you ready to become both doers and hearers of the word? Are you willing to make yet another leap of faith into the ever-rising stream of life, onto stepping stones that seem ever and ever further apart, slicker and slicker as the tide rises? As you judge your next step, I ask you to remember these words from the ancient Persian mystic Hafiz. Out of a great need, we're all holding hands and climbing. Not loving is a letting go. Listen, the terrain around here is far too dangerous for that. Beloved Jubilee, this coming year will be one of dangerous and great need. I'm not letting go. I pray you'll belay me as I belay you. In a good way. Aho. Amen. And oh yeah.
So there's one more announcement to make before Stephanie does the communal prayer, and that is about the survey. So first I want to thank the 55 people who answered the survey about what they like best about Sunday celebrations. And then I want to remind the rest of you that we have focus groups this afternoon being led by Rose Bader to discuss this further and in more detail. So even if you weren't able to answer the survey in the first place, please come to the focus groups. They'll be right here about 12 o'clock. Grab a bite to eat in the coffee hour and then come on in and join us. Thank you.
So today, Jay is not with us, and I wanted to offer once again our opportunity for communal prayer together. And if you'll remember, it's where we'll take a bit of quiet time, and then you can raise your hand if you have a joy or concern that you would like to share with our community. I will come to you and give you the microphone, and you can share it. And then when you are done, the communal part of this, we've all heard them with our heart, but we do an expression, a physical expression. So I'll lead it every time if you forget. But after someone says something, we bring it into our hearts as a community, and then we release it to God. Okay? So you can take a moment of silence and then just raise your hand if anything bubbles to the surface you'd like to share with beloved community today.
I asked for prayers for my nephew, Chris. He's been on the prayer chain. He's 47 years old and has a cancer of the anus. Very worrisome. And I also want to be thankful for my son, David, who traveled to see him this past week in Cincinnati, and he gathered his cousins together to honor Chris at a dinner. And he retraced, he sent me a text of the picture of the home that I grew up in, and some other things, but these young men who are sensitive and lovely.
And we take those prayers and we bring them into our hearts, and then we release them to God.
I want to share joy. My youngest grandchildren, Joaquin and Oliver, live in the beach area of Southern California in LA, Redondo Beach. So I don't get to share the holiday season with them. And when my children were growing up, it was a special time. I loved to bake. I'd make really awesome cookies for them. And, you know, and I miss that energy. And I've been given the opportunity for the past almost year to work in a child care center through the foster grandparent program with children who are being dropped off by their parents when they're working. And I am in a 4-year-old group. And they bring me so much joy, and they love on me. Oh, they're so special, and they've really touched my heart. So this holiday season, I'm back to baking again and I made reindeer, like candy cane, Rudolph reindeer candy canes with pipe cleaners, and I am making all kinds of cookies, and I'm just like so happy to give them little bags of cookies. And so I'm happy this holiday season to, even though I can't be with family, to have those beautiful little young spirits with me. So thank you.
And we take that joy into our hearts and we offer it to God.
Well, this is a prayer for one of our wonderful people, Patricia, who normally sets up the altar for the last several months, fell and broke her humerus, which I know from another friend of mine it's a rough time. So just to be thinking of her.
And we take that prayer into our hearts and we release it to God.
I would just like to give an awareness of joy and gratitude. Give gratitude for Howard Hanger, for Jubilee community, for being of service as a minister in this community for the past 7 years. And for each and every one of you that have so kindly opened your heart and your spirit. Not only this Jubilee community, but just the community at large here. So thank you for being part of that seed is growing. My prayer and my awareness is of the gratitude and how blessed my life is. How blessed that we are to have one another in a good way.
And we take that into our hearts and we offer it to God.
I just wanted to say thank you to the community, because on Sundays I come here and I get very happy, and everybody seems to dance with me and enjoy the dancing together and the music and the smiling and the laughter. And I have to say, this is my one wonderful place on Sundays, and I want to thanks be to Jubilee.
And we take that gratitude into our hearts and we offer it to God.
Hey, Jubilee, this is Elizabeth. I have a concern and prayer and also a joy. The first one, my daughter called me the other day and said, well, Mom, I'm going to put off having kids for 4 years. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, you know, with my epilepsy, I'm automatically going to be a high-risk pregnancy. I can't take the chance that something might happen and they would let me die. And the joy is, she was coming through town yesterday. She works with foster kids up in Cross Nor, and they had to come to town for an errand. And she said, Mom, where are you? I said, well, I'm at work. She said, are you going to be home soon? I said, I can be. And she stopped by for 5 minutes just on her way back and said, I need a big mama bear hug. And so does my kiddo. Can you do that? I'm like, yes. And she did.
And we take that into our hearts and we release that to God.
Hello, Jubilee. I am the proud mom of John David Short. And I am here to tell you it hasn't always been easy. But of late, especially, I was so proud of him to jump off of a ledge and take a chance and go to an abbey, a monastery, a Catholic monastery. I'm sorry, I do have my prejudice. And to go and to find all this great joy and centering. And then I had the opportunity to visit. And oh my God, he's right. There is a thin veil between our world and that world. And it touched my heart so deeply. I'm proud of him.
And we take those mama's words into our hearts and we release them to God.
I'd like to share a prayer that came in on the live chat from Nancy Williams. She asked to please share prayers for her sister Jane, who is fighting bravely against stage 4 cancer.
And we take that into our hearts and we release that to God.
Jubilee community. I haven't said those words over a microphone in a long time. Let me take a deep breath. Okay, I'm going to make this short. Thank you. Too long. Okay, thank all of you for all the joy that you've triggered in me that was just lying there waiting. I've waited, done other words to start with W. But I'm so grateful to Howard Hanger. He saved my life. I came to Asheville figuring I'm going to go to Unity, Unitarian, Universalist, and some other. I only do things in 3, so some other unknown gathering of spiritual people. I found out about Jubilee. I came to Jubilee first. I still haven't been to Universalist or any of those. And today I realize I'm going to go on a pilgrimage to Texas. It's a place called Lib Shemay, means the listening heart. And it's a silent meditation retreat. I can use silence more than I recognize. So I'm going to go there. I'm getting ready to get a truck tomorrow that is good enough to take me there. And so I'm going to go on a little pilgrimage. And I won't tell you the way that Howard saved my life, because I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know my life was being saved. All I knew was like, something's different. And it's a darn good difference.
And we take those words into our heart and we offer them to God.
Four and a half weeks ago, I had the last of 6 chemo treatments. And this coming Wednesday, I'll have a PET scan. And my hope and prayer is that it will demonstrate the complete healing that I believe to be there.
And we take those words into our heart and we release them to God. And I want to close out this time by also offering up all of those prayers, meditations, gratitudes, thoughts, worries, anxieties, blessings that we hold within our hearts as a community. So I'd like to take all those that have not been mentioned, bring those into our heart. and offer all those to Creator. Amen and aho.
Friends, let us stand and share our voices once again. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Share your holy peace with one another. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. All you gotta do is call me. Call me. Come on, just call. Call me. Here's my number. Call me. What do you need? Call me. Call me. Call me.
Jubilee! Good morning, Jubilee. Today, the singers are offering a gift by singer-songwriter Leah Morris. Leah grew up in the DC area and currently lives in Germany. So our piece is entitled Honor the Dark. Sometimes fear surrounds us. Sometimes there will be pain. Let the darkness heal you so that only love remains.
the light. Receive the gifts that come to us by day and by night. I choose to honor the dark, uncertainty and change. Deliver us from fear until only love remains. Honor the dark as you do the light. Receive the gifts that come to us by day and by night. I choose to honor the dark, uncertainty and change. Deliver us from fear until only love remains. Honor the darkness as you honor the darkness. Receive the gifts that come to us. Honor the darkness. 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 As the evening sky reveals the light of the moon, sometimes fear surrounds us, sometimes there will be pain. Let the darkness heal you until only love remains. As the butterfly slips free from her dark cocoon, as the evening sky reveals the light of the moon, sometimes fear surrounds us, sometimes there will be pain. Let the darkness heal you until only love remains. As the butterfly slips free from her dark cocoon, as the evening sky reveals the light of the moon, sometimes fear surrounds us, sometimes there will be pain. Let the darkness heal you until only love remains. Honor the dark.
Thank you, singers. Great words, great message. And we'll miss you when you go. Our reading today is an excerpt from Psalm 19, translated by Nan Merrill. The heavens declare the awe and wonder of the Creator. The firmament proclaims the handiwork of love. Day to day speech pours forth, and night to night knowledge is revealed. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard, yet does their music resound through all the earth, and their words echo to the ends of the world. This is ancient wisdom and holy word. All creation is wisdom and holy word.
All creation sings of wisdom and God. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So I don't know if you know or not, I'm sharing a story today. I am an enrolled member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians out of North Dakota. I was not raised with my tribe or my family. I was adopted out of the tribe in between two pieces of legislation. One encouraged the removal of Indian children from their families, and if anyone was placed in social service, the tribe had no jurisdiction over their kids. The next piece of legislation said, oh, that's a form of genocide. And so they stopped it. So I was in the middle of that. And I was adopted by a lovely family, a German Catholic family in Wisconsin. And I had 3 siblings. They were all from my parents. I was in the middle there. And I learned to dance the polka, and I learned to eat sauerkraut. Now, my parents always told me since I was little, I can remember being maybe 5 years old and my mom telling me about my being American Indian, right? And that I was adopted. I just didn't really know what that meant because there weren't any other ones around me. So I was in kindergarten, and we were recreating the first Thanksgiving. And so it was a little pageant, right? And so the teacher said, all right, I'd like you all to count off, students line up, count off in 1s and 2s, 1s and 2s. So we did it, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then she said, now, 1s over here and 2s over there. 1s are Indians and 2s are pilgrims. Guess what number I was? 2. I was a pilgrim. And so but I knew I wasn't a pilgrim. I mean, I was just a kindergartner, right? But I was like, I'm not a pilgrim. This isn't right. And so I went up to the teacher, and she was busy, and so I finally tugged on her skirt. And I just said, excuse me, I'm an Indian. And she said, what number are you? So she told me to go hang with the pilgrims, which is the story of my life. When we were about 8 or 9 years old, my younger sister and I, and the older boys, but we got those, do you remember those National Geographic picture books when we were younger? And so my sister got one, and it was all about dolphins, and it was beautiful. And I got one, and it was all about American Indians, and I couldn't relate to a bit of it. They were beautiful. There were pictures. They were in full regalia. It was just something that I couldn't even touch. I tried to wrestle my sister for her book, but she won. So I'd say I suffered a bit with issues of belonging, being a girl from a tribe raised away from her tribe. And I remember my parents, they were very good. They did their best. So my mom one day showed me my birth certificate because she thought it might help my existential angst. And do you know what? My birth certificate was all blacked out. It had black marks on it. So that helped my existential angst. In college, I went to the University of Colorado at Boulder, and there was an Oyate Indian Club program, event, and reception. And I wanted to go because I was hungry to know of my people and my tribe and my ancestry. And so I went to the event. I was very nervous, but I went. And this very nice gentleman came up to me, and he said, I'm sorry, this is just for Native American students. And he walked me out. And I should say most of the kids there were Ute, Mountain Ute. I mean, they had more of the redder hue of skin. And I am from a people that mated with the French Canadian fur trappers. So I'm French Indian, so I just have the color I do. But that was a moment of shame. That was a walk of shame for me. A couple years later, still in college, I took my time. I got a letter one day out of the blue, and it was from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And inside, so it was a letter from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and there was also a check from the Department of Treasury. And the check was maybe for like, I don't know, $2,000, more than I had seen as a college kid eating ramen. And I read the letter. The letter said, I guess it's sort of my golden ticket, if you will, but the letter said this was a peace treaty settlement. And it was from a larger group than just my tribe, and there were about 30,000 of us who all got this money. And they said the original treaty, well, they didn't say, I went and did the research. The original treaty was for 12 cents an acre, and the government was only paying $2. And so we all got something like $2,000, and I can't even fathom the amount of land that is. So I suppose that was a moment when I entered into what it was to be a part of my ancestry and the part of that DNA that day. There was, as there always is, a silver lining. At the end of that letter, there was a phone number, and it said my reservation, and I never knew. I'd always wanted to know, but it was sealed information, my adoption. So I called the number, and I kid you not, the words I heard when someone picked up the phone were, trading post. And I was like, what? I mean, I'd only seen the Val Kilmer movies, right? So I was like, what? Anyway, who answered the phone happened to be a Lutheran seminary student from Chicago. And she was working on my reservation with the people that summer. And I told her a bit of my story, and she was amazing. And she said, well, can you get up here? And I said, well, I don't have a car, but I have this money, and so I'm going to figure it out. And she said, well, we're in the middle of nowhere, near Canada. And she said, it's planes, trains, and automobiles to get here, but I'll meet you wherever you can fly in, and I'll bring you, and you can stay with me. Yeah, right? Seriously, people are good. And so she brought me back, and we ended up staying on the sacred grounds of the reservation. And oddly enough, it was occupied by the Lutherans. But they were lovely. And the Lutheran minister and his wife lent me their old fancy little car, which is nice, that could barely run. But they said, you just use this car and you stay with us. We got you. So it was lovely. One funny thing is when I was driving onto the reservation with my friend Jackie, this Lutheran seminary student from Chicago, we were driving onto the reservation, and I have like all the hope in the world, right? Like, and this is like, I have some expectation that I will feel home because I've never felt it. So we're driving onto this land, and the first thing I see is the Welcome to Turtle Mountain Reservation, and the sign has bullet holes in it. And I thought, whoa, right? And then we drove a little further, and we got into town. Town's very small. I want to say it's probably 10 miles by 13 miles, this reservation. And went into town, and I saw a couple signs of businesses, and one was called You Scalp 'Em, and it was the barbershop. I mean, you know, you take back humor, right? You take back your power. And then the other one said the Sleepy Teepee Hotel. And then, of course, I saw the Shooting Star Casino. And my friend said to me, hey, penny for your thoughts. You know, young, earnest seminary students wanting to be supportive. I'm pretty mysterious, though, and boundaried. So I think I said, no, I'm good. Thank you. Keep your penny. But here's what I was thinking. If you want to know, I'll tell you. I had this vision in my head, and it was going to be what it was like when I met my mother, because that's why I went to the reservation, was to find my birth mom. And that was my hope. So I figured out how it was going to be. You know, you have these visions in your head. So in this vision in my head, for some reason, I'm sitting at a gas station on top of a gas pump. Because I think that's where everybody goes, right? It's like the center of town. And I'm sitting on this gas pump, and then, of course, there's a soundtrack playing, because there always is in the background in your visions. So there's this music playing in the background. It's ambient. It's, you know, hopeful. And then I would look up, and I would feel her before I actually saw her, because she's your mom, right? Like, isn't that, I don't know what that connection's like, but I'm assuming you know. With every cell of your being. So I would feel her before I would see her, and then I would look up into the horizon, and I would see my mom coming in on horseback. And she would come meet me, and she'd jump off her horse, and we'd give each other a big hug, and it was yin and yang, happy ever after. And then she showed me the horse she brought me to the gas station. And then we would both get on those horses and ride off into the sunset, and the music just got louder and louder. Yeah. So the first thing I did when I got on the reservation is I went to the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs office, and I went to the tribal enrollment office, and I wanted to find out who my mother was. And I'm earnest, right? I just thought I could just go in and fill out paperwork. That's how I grew up. So I went in and I told the woman, I went to the office and I said, hey, I'm looking for the identity of my mother. And then she looked at me and she said, are you adopted? And I said, yeah, I am adopted. And she said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. That was it. Records are sealed. I can't help you. And she walked away. And I remember just, I didn't know, again, I think it was another moment that I wasn't aware of how much hope I had. And so I stood in the middle of the hallway, and I am not emotionally expressive, usually, and I just sobbed. And I couldn't do it quietly or in a pretty way. She finally came back. I guess I was too loud. And she's like, all right, tell me your name. And so I gave her my name. And honest to God, she turns around and she goes to these big old filing cabinets, and she opens them up, and she rifles through files. She pulls one out, and she opens it up, and then she looks at me, And she says, I can tell you one thing, your mother is alive. And she closed the file. I know. So, and it was not as clean and neat and as quick as I thought it would all go. To be honest, I'm such a Westerner. My flight was only a week. I thought I could find my mom, reunite with my tribe, my family, find my home, and then come back. I ended up staying for almost 2 months at the end of this. So while I was spending time on the reservation and trying to get to find out anything I can find out about my family, even one of my new friends there said, "Let me take you to meet my uncle. He is a medicine man, and he's also the guidance counselor at the high school." And she said, "He'll know what to do." And so she took me to him, and we sat with him on his back deck, and I was curious and all the things, and I was very impatient, and he made me pay attention to the birds that were overhead, and he made me pay attention to the wind in the trees, and he made me just pay attention to just being there and being held by all of creation, earth and sky. And then he said that he would do a sweat for me, but that's something that he and his buddies would do. And so we made arrangements, and a few days later we got there and we did all the things, and we put the tobacco in the 4 different colors of cloth, right? And then I had to carry them, bless me with an eagle feather. I had never done a sweat before. And we went in, and I remember being a little bit shocked because he brought a bunch of his friends, and they were big old guys. And the sweat lodge is really, really tiny. And so I didn't know how we were all going to pack on in there, but we did. And we got in, and then the medicine man, he closed the flap, and he explained, he said, once we enter into this place, we are in the land of spirit, and anything that is said here is sacred. And if for whatever reason there was a firekeeper outside who would bring in more of the hot stones, and he said, if for any reason during the praying, which involves a branch dipped in water, and every time someone would pray, they'd splash the water, right? And they believed our prayers went up in the smoke to the spirits. And so he said, if there's any reason you need to leave, you need to say these words, all my relations. And then that's how we could get out. And I remember committing that to memory. I kept saying it because I know me in small places. So I'm like, all my relations, all my relations, all my relations. So we're in there, and I don't know what it was, but every person who prayed like for every one of their horses by name. And then the next guy would pray for 15 more horses plus his neighbors. And so it was like, pa-choo, 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 with the water on the rocks, and the steam was rising. And we're squished together, right, in this really tight space sitting on the earth. And at one point, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. And I didn't know what to do when I felt trapped. And then I remembered, wait, I can say those words. What are those magic words, right, to open the door? And all I could think was because my father, after he did his first life in telecommunications, he became a realtor. So all I could think was, all you realtors. Like, that's all. And I knew that wasn't it. And I was like, oh no, I'm stuck. So it made it even worse. And so I somehow figured a way to move my body in that tight space so that my face was on the earth, because it felt like maybe I could breathe there. And I couldn't, but I was trying. And so then the medicine man's wife was sitting next to me, and I felt her hands on me, and she pulled my face up off the dirt, and then she took my head and she stuffed it into her chest. And I was thinking, this isn't going to help either. But what she did is then she leaned in and she started talking to me so I could hear her, and she held me to her. Meanwhile, they were singing. They were singing in the sweat. And she leaned in and she said, I need you to lean into the music. Lean in to the music, lean into the music. And then she said, and now I need you to go just below the music because you will find breath there. And I did. And I found breath. So the sweat ended, and I remember being really disappointed. The medicine man at the end handed me back my jewelry, because they take your jewelry for whatever reason, and watches. And he handed it back and he said, good night. And I was thinking, well, don't you have something for me? Like my mother's name, her phone number, her email, her address, her location. And he had nothing. He had nothing. So it was another disappointment. And I remember going home and feeling foiled again. And I went back to the sacred grounds. And what I need to tell you is I had found this little sanctuary of my own on the sacred ground. There was a beautiful lake surrounded by trees. And there was a bit of like a broken off pier. And it seemed like a sacred, secret garden, a little sanctuary. So I found that place. And every morning and every night, that was where I prayed. And my prayers were sometimes tears. My prayers were sometimes, questions, hopes, all of it. And I was held. I was held in that space by the trees, by the water, by the earth. One day, I was sitting there, and I had been hanging out at the courthouse. That's where I got to know all the people. And I drank a lot of really bad coffee in styrofoam cups. I'm sorry, Earth, I'm sorry. And a lot of sugar cubes. But I talked to all the people, and I kept trying to figure out if anyone knew anything about my background. So the tribal judge came in because they were trying to see if they could prove I had a right to my lineage, and if they could do it through the court system. And so she came in and she said, Stephanie, I need to talk to you. I have some news. So she brought me into her office, and she sat me down and she said, well, I know the identity of your mother. And she said, you are so lucky. She said, your mother is an artist, and you come from the greatest family. And she said, there's just one thing you don't know. And then there was a knock on the door, and all these people came in, and I've been seeing them because the res isn't that big, and people were coming and checking me out while I was there. So I saw all these people that I knew came into the room, and they grabbed me in a big hug. And then they said, we're your relatives, we're your relations. Yeah, except I didn't hug them back, and you want to know why? Because I was looking for my mom, and I knew she wasn't in that room. But they were lovely, and they had pictures, and they started showing me stuff, and I just said, thank you so much, you are all so lovely, thank you, thank you. Where is my mom? And then the tribal judge said, well, she is over at the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. She's with the tribal chief, who, guess what, is also one of your relations. and so I said, well, that's great. Are you okay if we go there now? And so they said, fine. And I swear to you, we all piled into one minivan. And we drove down the gravel road to get to the old BIA building. And when we got there, I was sitting in the front seat. They were very kind to me. And someone said, wait, before you get out, just quick, read this. And they had crumpled up a piece of paper and tossed it in the window. And I uncrinkled the paper, and I looked at it, and I said, well, can we wait? And they said, no, we have time, just read it. So I uncrinkled the paper, and I start to look at it. I don't know if you've had this experience, but there was a photo in the corner. And I'm looking at the picture, and it's pixelated in a way, like I can't see it, like I'm entering into the color, nothing's clear. And then I'm reading, and then it occurs to me, and I turn to them, and they're all gathered outside the window. And I asked, is this my mother's obituary? And they said, yes, sorry, we didn't know how to tell you. She just died a couple of months ago. And then they said, come on in, come meet the tribal chief, she wants to meet you. And all I know is they somehow carried me into the building because I didn't want to go. And we got into her office, and she said, oh, Stephanie, it's so good to meet you, this tribal chief. And she held out her arms for a big old hug, and I turned and I ran. And it was like run, Forrest, run, like the movie. And I ran out of the building. I ran past all of my relations who were trying to grab onto me. I ran outside. I didn't know where I was. I was on country road. I was on field. I was on grass. I was on gravel. I just kept running because I couldn't stop. Finally, I did, because it turns out you can't run forever. So I was walking down a country road, not knowing, not caring where I am, just feeling absolutely lost, like I missed something that I would never, ever, ever get again. And a car pulls up beside me, and it's my friend, the one who took me to her uncle, the medicine man, so Carla. So she was driving beside me, and she said, Stephanie, get in the car. Come on, get in the car. And then I just turned to her and I said, I'm sorry, I can't get in the car. I'm not okay. This is all too much. And so she kept driving. She's like, please, just get in the car. Everybody wants to talk to you. They miss you. They love you. You're our family. You're our relation. And then finally, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't. And I just kept walking. And then she said, do you want Dairy Queen? And do you know it worked? I said, yes. And I got in the car because we were going to go get Dairy Queen. So I get in the car, and so we're talking a little bit, and she says, actually, I'm sorry, I lied. And she said, I'm taking you to see my uncle. I think you need to see the medicine man. And I said, what about Dairy Queen? And she said, are you kidding me? This is the res. We don't have a Dairy Queen. So she took me to see her uncle, and of course, what does he do? He takes me out on the back deck, and I am just impatient and quiet and deflated. And he makes me pay attention to the birds in the sky, and they're singing and they're calling, and the wind and the trees and the earth and all of it. And he turned to me and he said, I'm sorry, I heard the news. And I said, yeah. I said, well, all I really want to do right now is go home. I need to go home. And I think that's Colorado, I think. But I need to go. And he said, well, you know what, we'll help you. We'll help you with that. He said, but can I offer you something first? And I said, sure. And he said, well, we believe that when a Native American dies, that they let out a death cry. And they call people home that need to come home. Yeah. And he said, so if you want to go back to Colorado, we'll help get you there. He said, but I'm just inviting you to see what it is that your mother called you to. So I stayed. I did some things. I spent some time. I met some more people. But the most important, maybe, encounter for me was finding her grave. And I remember I knew the cemetery, and so I went down there, and it's not alphabetized, so it's just really hard to find people. And so I was going up and down, and it was starting to get dark out, and I couldn't find her. And so before I knew it, I was running. I was running down. And then I couldn't handle it anymore, and finally I just shouted out, if you called me here, Mother, I need to know where you are. I need to know where you are. And sure enough, as it works out, in that stopping, I looked down, and I was right there. The thing was, she didn't have a tombstone, so it was just a little metal placard, and it was still a pile. It was a mound of dirt. And I had this experience that was just utterly primal, and I laid on top of that mound of dirt. And I think, could I have crawled in? I probably would have. And I just remember having this overwhelming sense of something I think is called home, and belonging, and identity. And I felt like, it's like that movie, I felt like I didn't realize that my whole life I hadn't exhaled. And in that moment I could. And so it was this beautiful moment, right, of a homecoming, not what I thought, but absolutely beautiful. And then it dawned on me, it was getting darker, and it dawned on me, she's dead. This is not my home. I can't live here. And so it was like, as much as I had it in my hands, I had what I'd been searching for my whole life, I didn't even know. And I could do nothing as it was slipping through my fingers, absolutely nothing. And so that is a time, I think, when I have wept harder than I ever have on my knees on this mound of dirt as the sun was going down. And this wild thing happened. There's something about letting it just flow through you, right? Like not hanging on, not shoving it down, just being a human in a really hard earth school, right, for spirit and soul. And somehow in that process of release, I didn't do this, but you know what happened? Somehow, it's like all I'd been hearing, do you ever have those moments so alone, so you just hear your heartbeat? So it was like that, right? It was brought in. And somehow I started to hear birds singing. And then I started to hear wind whipping through the trees and the leaves. And then I think I heard a dog somewhere off. And then I heard children laughing. And it was this moment, it was just this moment where I guess I realized home isn't anything to do with out here. It has everything to do with what's in here, where we live and move and have our being, this ground of love, right? It's all in the heart. And it was my inextricable connection to the whole of creation that brought me into this place of healing and place of home. And I just want to end by saying that I picked this series. It's John Philip Newell's latest book called The Great Search, meaning we're all searching now for deeper spiritual truths, for home, for healing. And he offers different ways. And this particular one was, here's what he called this one, was turning to earth and soul in the quest for healing and home. Amen and aho.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Well, Jubilee is our home, or one of our homes, and it's time to send around the bowls and the baskets and offer our gifts to this home of ours. The earth is my church. Mount Everest is the steeple. If I'm hurt, I pray to dirt. And the creatures are my preachers. In the streams flow my dreams towards the ocean as life's driven. And a breeze quells the need to remember what's been written. All my suffering's gone in her loving arms. All right, let's stand and sing. We'll sing ourselves out. We'll open our hearts. Come on. Think of your fellow man. Lend him a helping hand. Put a little love in your heart. You see it's getting late. Oh, please don't hesitate. Put a little love in your heart. And the world will be a better place. And the world will be a baby, do you know what that's worth? Oh, heaven is a place on earth. They say in heaven, love comes first. We'll make heaven a place on earth. Oh, baby, there's a place on earth. Come on. When the night falls down, I wait for you and you come around, and the world's alive with the sound of kids on the street outside. When you walk into the room, you pull me close and we start to move. And when we're spinning in the stars above, lift me up in a wave of love. Ooh, baby, we know where that's worth. Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. They say in heaven, love comes first. We'll make heaven a place on earth. Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. When I feel alone, I reach for you and you bring me home. When I'm lost at sea, I hear your voice and it carries me. In this world we're just beginning to understand the miracle of living. Baby, I was afraid before, I'm not afraid anymore. Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. They say in heaven, love comes first. We'll make heaven a place on earth. Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. In this world we're just beginning to understand the miracle of living. Baby, I was afraid before, I'm not afraid anymore. Ooh, baby, do you know what Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? Whoa, heaven is a place on earth. They say in heaven, love comes first. We'll make heaven a place on earth. Whoa, heaven is a place on earth. Yeah, heaven is a place on earth. Oh, heaven is a place on earth. Oh, heaven is a place on earth. Oh, heaven is a place on earth. Thank you so much, Jubilee. Stick around, there's a meeting.